magic for a good blaster at your side.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about Star Wars theme parks and more. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Welcome to episode 85, the one in which we have a couch.
I wonder if you'll be able to hear the difference. The comfort.
If you can hear the malaise, just the laziness of comfort and us slowly not caring even more than usual.
I always thought of the word malaise as you hear the word mayonnaise and you just think just plain.
It's like a mayonnaise-based
badness.
salad, malaise.
Malaise.
Yeah.
For some reason, I add Jell-O in there too.
Ew.
I think of Jell-O and mayonnaise at the same time.
That's not a thing you should.
What a way to start episode 85. Jell-O mayonnaise. Jell-O and mayonnaise.
Jell-O-naise, new from Kraft.
Hasbro.
It's
Hasbro
it's
Kraft.
not a food
We're
product.
the same thing now.
It's not a food product. It's like Floam for playing with. It's just Jell-O,
Jell-O.
mayonnaise-based Jell-O.
Jell-O mayonnaise.
We couldn't feed it to you, so you can play with it.
Legally, this is not a food product. All right, well, got plenty of things to talk about.
I'm already ready to take a nap on the new recording
This
couch.
is a bad idea.
The couch?
Being so comfortable.
Yeah.
It's the uncomfort and just general badness that gives this podcast the quality that
true.
everyone looks for.
Maybe the more comfortable we get, the higher the quality. That's not
No,
There's nothing. The more comfortable we get, the less comfortable you get, listener.
it's an inverse equation.
Yeah. We steal your comfort.
The worse we feel, the better you'll like us.
Right.
All right. Well, the part of this episode is going to be the Michael finished some things segment. I don't have any music for it. Other than that's pretty good. Yeah, that's good enough, right? I finished. Let's count them. Last Shot, number 1. The novel
Finally.
Last Shot.
I still haven't, but you know,
I finished something before you did, amazingly.
it's a
And
first.
for all the people who say that I don't like reading,
It's a podcast first.
here I am shouting already. A few minutes in, 3 minutes. It was good. I think I had mentioned, I don't know if I had mentioned it last episode or the one before, that it was kind of a, read it if you have the time
Right.
sort of novel. Like there's nothing, and then finishing it and taking it all in. There's really nothing about it that's special. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
And yeah, from
You know?
from what I read, I'm probably only got like a third through before I just didn't keep reading. I will eventually, but
That's
yeah,
right.
it's a fun adventure that doesn't really affect anything at large. Other than I thought it was really cool to see, just to have the inside voice of Han and his like lack of certainty about being a father
Yeah.
is just like
How
this is not what I should have done. I
How
made a
he
bad
relates-
decision,
how he relates to Ben.
or doesn't.
Well, yeah, right.
I don't know what to do with this thing or with any of this, and I don't want to be like, he doesn't want to be a leader, but he wants to be a dad, but I don't know. He just wants everything. He just wants everything to be calm,
Right.
and nothing, obviously,
Calm and simple.
ever will be that way.
Yeah, it's that the opposite of him wanting to be a dad and loving Leia and loving Ben, but at the same time wanting things to be simple and not having any idea how to be a father and not being able to do anything right, and yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I
The
like that.
juxtaposition of the two.
Yeah, I like that juxtaposition at the beginning of the book where, it's going through in the first handful of chapters where it's like his difficulty of being a father and being a husband and the combination of the two. But as soon as he goes off with Lando, he just like slides right back into just like being super comfortable
Smuggler mode.
and the, just having his swagger and helping Lando, just like they go to that soothsayer or whatever, and Lando steals the bones that they were reading.
The Toydarian guy. Yeah.
And Lando steals that, and Han's just Han helped him with that. Like it was just it's seamlessly comfortable for him to
Right.
to do that type of stuff compared to the first few chapters where he's just like internal monologue of like of being a father.
Right. Which is how
cool
we all feel.
It's yeah.
Just the internal screaming constantly.
Well, I mean, especially for him. I mean, obviously he had Chewie, but at the same time, like it was only ever his own skin he had to worry about. Which, I mean, I totally understand. It's much more difficult when you're having to worry about the livelihood of someone else.
Yeah.
Not just marriage, but having a child as well, where it's like everything for the rest of their forever relies on me doing a good job at this.
Right.
Right now.
Right.
And, you know, not turning this into a parenting podcast, but it's like, it's when you're a parent,
That's
it's
what
not,
everyone wants to hear from us.
But as a parent, it's not trying not to mess up. It's just, you know, it's you're going to mess up. It's not how much you mess up. It's just how hard you mess up. Right.
Yeah. It's trying to it's knowing that you're going to mess up, but then also trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this,
how you handle it and turn it into either a learning situation or whatever. Like
right.
it's not that it's not, you know, how can I not mess up? It's how bad can I not mess up?
Right.
This person's, you know, rest of their life.
Right.
Which I obviously that's kind of what Han's going through of like, I have to take care of this thing and everything I can't do any of this because I'm not even a good person. Which, yeah, that's every day.
Yes.
Forever.
I did like, I don't know how much do you want me to, I'm going to spoil, this is a Star Wars podcast, so I'm going to just spoil it for you. But it ends with obviously them catching up to Faizan Gore, which is the main kind of bad guy of the story. He created this virus that can, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but he created this virus that, you know, can take over droids' programming and override with a simple kill command. So they just want to kill organics.
Nice.
Basically. So he created this virus, and there's this device that he also created that roams the galaxy, trying to improve itself. That's a transmitter that eventually, when it gets to a point where it's improved itself enough to transmit a message galaxy-wide, he'll hook up with this device again. It's called the Phalanx. Phalanx, something like that.
Phylanx.
Yeah. He'll hook up with the Phalanx again, and then upload this virus and transmit this virus to a bunch of basically all the droids in the galaxy. Right. But anyway, the end of the book reveals that there were these cutaways back to when Lando still had L3, back before, I think it was before Solo. I mean, it would have to have been because L3 dies in Solo. But spoiler alert for everyone who decided to skip that movie. I don't know how many people that was. But there are these cutaways with Lando and L3 where they go to the Phalanx in its early days, and L3 does something in the device Lando doesn't see. And then at the end of the book, they reveal that L3 had droid sex with the device.
I was right with my ooze.
And uploaded basically, you know, in their intercourse, she downloaded a bunch of information from the droid and uploaded doubt into.
She done fucked some sense into it.
So at the very end, the Phalanx has, you know, after all this time of improving itself and all this self-doubt has kind of festered.
So like regular sex.
Yes.
Where after you're done, you have self-doubt.
There's just a doubt and regret.
Just a general doubt and regret about your choices.
Of your whole life.
Just you, really. Not your choices. It's just you're the problem always.
Just in general. And that just compounds upon itself each time it happens. Yeah, exactly. But it's able to communicate with Lando at the very end and help him because of this DAO that she uploaded. And then she took from it the code for the virus, and she was able to, over a certain amount of time, create an antivirus for it.
Interesting.
And then also go and create copies of herself that had this antivirus built in, that were then she created a copy of herself that had this antivirus built into it, that was then instructed to go create more copies. So basically it built itself a little assault team that shows
So it
up
was
at the
antibodies,
yeah,
basically.
that shows up
She
at the
made
very
white blood
end
cells.
to help Lando, and they are, you
Okay.
know, in L3's form and everything. And he has
Like
these,
actual robot copies, like
yeah, like physical
robots,
droids.
not like just
She
hard
built-
drive copies.
Right, no, she built a
Okay.
physical droid that looked like herself and gave it,
Weird.
programmed it with instructions to create copies of itself and then improve, you know, improve themselves with various weaponry and tactics and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
But so at the very end, there's this L3 assault team, they call themselves, that reminded me a lot of the Ninja Turtles for some reason, that shows up and helps Lando as he's, you know, trying to destroy the filings.
That's interesting.
But that was really the only interesting part for me, was the idea that L3, you know, in Solo, you know, it was kind of talked about how she built herself or augmented herself.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, that might have been just in the visual dictionary, but L3, you know, improved herself. She used to be like just a simple astromech droid, and she improved herself.
Well, even now, even from the movie, obviously, she's not just a regular droid. She's
got like a heightened personality and all that stuff.
She's taken on personality, and
right.
Obviously, she even had, you know, like just from her improvement over time, like she had all of the, you know, like basically a map of the galaxy and routes and all that stuff, which she uploaded at the end to the, you know, that her brain is now the Millennium Falcon, which is why we know that the Falcon can do everything, basically because of L3 almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got some of that.
Where she had, you know, that was her character, just in kind of improving herself and being this big personality, and then she went off and kind of copied that into other droids. Thought that was kind of interesting. It was kind of weird at the end, like with them showing up and how they explain the antivirus thing and how that whole situation was resolved, was felt a little too convenient in a way.
Yeah,
but I don't know. So
just
like
heist,
again,
like any heist movie, convenient.
Yeah, well, like it wrapped itself up a little too cleanly, I thought.
Okay.
But I don't know. Again, it's a book that it's fun to read. It's fun to see into the mind of Han, like you're saying, and Lando. You kind of get some of that. Lando isn't quite as deep of a character, I think, in this book.
Yeah, which I mean, people also complained about that with the movie too.
With Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with Lando just being like, what, you took the three personality traits that we saw in Empire and then just made that his entire character of, I like clothes and I'm a player and
they
gambling.
did show a lot of his sensitive side, so to speak, in this book with Kasha, which is his kind of love interest in the book. But so I mean, I don't know, you get that sort of, but he still felt a little shallow to me. So I don't know. Again, it's a fun book to read, but it's not super.
It's not required
important.
reading.
Yeah, I thought at the very end there was going to be something with that whole L3 thing that was bigger, that had a bigger impact than just her figuring out the antivirus, basically.
What, like with her multiplying?
Yeah,
like it would have, I don't know. It could lead into something else happening for more,
like
more
maybe,
stories,
or something that, you know, that was uploaded into her consciousness that now the Falcon has, that would explain something. You know, I thought it was going to be something along those lines, but it didn't really end up being anything like that. And the Falcon wasn't even really in the story at all.
No, because they borrowed another ship because it couldn't be a recognizable ship.
Exactly.
So
so her personality, I mean, they set up this whole thing with her in the beginning, communicating with this device and having this connection with it, and then she's gone, you know, and the Falcon isn't even there to kind of carry that on a little bit. So I don't know.
Having not finished it, is there, because obviously in the movie they made a big deal about her being like a droid freedom activist.
Yeah.
Right. Was that in the book at all?
That was kind of her motivation to help this phalanx device.
Okay.
In the very beginning, like the whole,
like it didn't have a choice in what it was doing, so she wanted to give it a choice.
Yeah, like she found out about it, why, that it was created and who created it and all that. And
Okay.
obviously this guy, Faizan Gore, has a reputation for just being a mad scientist kind of character.
Yeah.
So she found out who created it and what it was and all that, and she basically dragged Lando to it. With Lando,
I think that's
being,
where
kind
I
of being in
stopped
the
reading.
dark.
Is where they she dragged him out of that party he was at or whatever, and they flew to it. And I think that's where I ended. Is they got to this weird location.
Okay.
And Lando's like, "What are we doing here?"
Right. Yeah. Lando was kind of kept in the dark, and at the very end, she explains to him. It goes back to that cut scene.
Okay.
In a way, and she explains to him what all was happening. But yeah, that was her motivation. I think was her, freedom fighter, activist sort of personality.
Interesting.
For wanting to.
But they didn't establish a reason for why she's that way.
No, they didn't explain her origins at all, really.
Okay.
Very much. So yeah, I don't know. So that's done, over with.
The book. Is that how you feel about books?
That's how I felt about this book. The last third of it.
Everything I read of it. I mean, was fun. It was an enjoyable read.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said before, it's not a Timothy Zahn book, but I mean, most Star Wars books also aren't. It's very hard to.
In fact, I think you'll find all the books he didn't write are not Timothy Zahn
exclusively
books.
not him.
It's funny how that works out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the last third of it, I was just trying to get through it as fast as possible, just because I wanted to say that I finished it. It wasn't because I particularly, I could have dropped it 70% of the way through and not really cared about.
I wonder if you'd feel that way about the Aftermath series if you actually tried to read it all the way.
I did look back in my Kindle, and apparently I've read half of the first one. I didn't realize I had gotten that far. I thought I only read a third of the first one.
Because those don't, I mean, those, I guess it's different because those do have a lasting impact on, I don't know, main story.
Well, the whole Battle of Jakku is laid out in those books, right?
Yes, and it brings up stuff with Thrawn and the fact of how they, it brings up the Emperor's stuff with the Emperor and the Sentinels. And so maybe because there's a bigger picture stuff like that, you'd probably enjoy it more. Yeah. Even though it's about a group of people that have nothing to do with anything and really aren't important. It makes them important.
I mean, there's connections to Snap, right?
Yeah.
Snap White.
Yeah, obviously he's in it. Because he's
and obviously son. The bigger stuff like the Battle of Jakku, that's referenced all over the place now. That's a main tentpole of the story.
You should try to read it sometime.
That's next on my list. I'm going through Thrawn Alliances now.
No, it's not. You're reading submarine novels, Michael. I know your life.
Yes, I am.
You turned 60 apparently in the last week, and now you're reading Tom Clancy novels.
I'm currently reading Tom Clancy's SSN, which is a submarine warfare novel that is extremely technical. SSN.
I heard SS Sin. Like it sounds like a Tom Clancy romance novel. It's a Tom Clancy romance novel. The SS Sin. Why is there disco on the show?
Everyone starts peeling off their little sailor outfits.
Not Navy uniforms or little sailor outfits.
I'm talking Donald Duck Little.
As in they don't have pants, it's just the shirts and a little hat? Is that what you mean?
Maybe.
Is that what your SS Sin looks like?
Welcome aboard the SS Sin. The next destination.
Debauchery. Yeah. It goes from funk to Barry White. What's happening? Who is in charge of the music on the SS Sin? Because I think that's the real sin. Is what's happening with the music.
The real sin is the playlist.
Not the pantsless Donald Duck man.
I wish there was
I wish there was an SS Sin with Donald Duck boys with their no pants. I mean, what?
I mean, that's not what I've been thinking about this whole drive over here. I wish there was an equivalent, a Star Wars equivalent to Tom Clancy novels.
Is that not Timothy Zahn?
I would say he's probably the closest to that of everything that I've read. Maybe I mean, I'm thinking back to like the Essential Guide books, like
Okay.
Essential Guide to Weaponry and Essential Guide to Vehicles and all that stuff. Those were just technical diagrams, basically. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what this book is just it's just like a technical readout of like wartime submarine
Sounds so boring.
wartime specifics and how.
I've never read a Tom Clancy novel. ever.
Really?
I'm not 60, so no. I haven't.
They're really interesting. I really
What?
like them.
How? All you're saying is that it's technical. So it's just the book, like chapter 1. Tom walked onto a submarine and he looked at the pipes. These pipes are called blah 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 blah, and he saw a
basically-
switch which is called this, and it routes through these pipes. Is it a documentary about a
Basically,
submarine?
You're describing probably half of it. That's probably most of it.
So it's just a documentary about a submarine and how they function.
But it's a submarine set in a fictional
This is a Nat Geo special about submarines.
kind of, yeah. But it's like it's extremely technical in like the tactics used and the description of the weaponry in the submarines and the classes of submarines and and classes of ships and stuff.
Are there
involved.
diagrams in the book?
No, actually, there are no diagrams.
So
There are
that's-
maps.
That's your one qualm.
There are
Oh, never mind. There's maps.
there are
Sorry.
conflict maps, quote unquote, where it shows a diagram of like
Gosh.
the task groups and where the
Sounds
submarine.
so boring.
It's really good. I really enjoy it.
I don't understand.
So, yes, I am reading that. I wish there was a Star Wars equivalent to that really got into the technical details of things. Because you know how we've talked before about how like this is a fantasy universe, not necessarily a science fiction universe.
Right.
You know, or like it's a space opera, not really science fiction.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, and the difference being science fiction is more on the technical side. A space opera is more on the dramatic interpersonal relationship kind of side of things. Right.
I mean, you've got the science fiction and the magic, which makes it a fantasy. Like, you know, the Force is total wizardry, right? So
Right.
it's a space opera. It's a fantasy sci-fi.
I guess it is blended in a way, but I wish there were more. And I don't know, maybe this is saying exactly what all the whiny man babies on the internet are saying. But
They want it to be more technical.
Yeah,
I want it to be based in reality.
right. That part of me wishes there was more of that in a way. Maybe not from the movies. Maybe I'm just thinking about the books. Because you can't really have that kind of stuff a lot in the movies. I get that. We've talked about that.
You start to break
before.
it. You start to break the reality of the universe. Like,
where it becomes
TIE fighters can't be explained.
well, yeah,
They shouldn't,
how
and
they
they
can
can't.
fly in atmosphere.
Yeah,
you're
they
saying.
shouldn't be, and they can't do what they do.
Right.
There's no technicality to that. That just everything about them is broken.
Everything has anti-gravity somehow, even like the tiniest little speeders that fly through
Sure.
atmosphere and stuff, you know.
Yeah. The Falcon's gun bays.
Right, stuff like
I
that.
do want a technical writer on that. Like, just someone give me a tech sheet of just something about how you get to them and what direction they face. That's all I want.
So I don't know. I mean, it's probably a bad thing to have that, especially to the level that I'm now reading. Because
I don't care. I don't want any of
It
that.
really
It sounds so
is like-
horrible and boring.
the captain loaded 2 Harpoon class missiles into tubes 1 and 2.
Are there footnotes?
No, it's all just kind of explained in the book.
See Appendix A for the
For
specs.
Harpoon. It lists out specs like the tonnage displacement of each submarine class and the
Why?
various U.S. Navy operating groups.
What does that matter? How does that help the story?
It just makes it more real. And then I'll tell you what.
Like, I know what a submarine and a missile is. Why do I need to know all the details? Like, I know what it does and that it goes, and then the missiles go boom. Like, why do I need
So bad,
everything
though.
in between that tells me how?
I want to know how. The how is the best part, Tyler. And I went and put on Hunt for Red October after that because I was like, I need more of this. And like after reading this book, I'm almost through it. I got 3/4 of the way
I can
through.
see you like painting a model submarine while Red October is on, while you're listening to the audiobook, and you have like
man.
a robe on, and that's it. And like tiny little spectacles on the end of your nose that you're working on this tiny submarine.
I would do that.
This is what you've become.
I got 3/4 of the way through this book in 2 days, which is great.
You can't read another book to save your life, but you can read
I
a
could
sub
just
spec manual.
tear through a book with a bunch of technical details.
Gosh.
And then the terms and stuff that they were using in Hunt for Red October lined up with everything that was in this book, so it's all real and fact checked and everything, which made me feel really good.
You're like pausing the movie to like mansplain the submarine to your wife.
No, I watched this alone.
I
was extremely alone during all of this.
was giving you an out.
Anyway,
I'm sorry for your impending divorce.
So anyway, after I finish the submarine book, I'll finish Thrawn Alliances. Which, by the way, I really enjoy all the things that you were talking. I think you talked about that last episode, right?
I'm telling you, this is good shit.
It's good. I really like how, I was telling you this the other day, I really like how the kind of arrogant attitude that both Anakin in the flashback cutscenes and Vader in the current time, the arrogant attitude that they have kind of explains Vader's behavior in the movies a little bit more, or it did for me. Like I was telling you about Hoth and how, people always kind of wonder, why would Vader do something as stupid as
why would he be involved
leading
in the ground invasion?
Assault, right? Yeah. And not to mention, why have a ground assault in the first place? Why not just send bombers in past the shield or something like that, But his kind of arrogant behavior and just rushing into things and not pausing to consider the situation like Thrawn would. Like Thrawn would not handle that assault the way Vader did, right?
No.
But yeah, Vader. Vader's greater. Vader's greater was smashing tomatoes with a potato. Vader leading the ground assault himself was totally just him wanting to just strike fear into
it's
the
just
rebels.
A show
like,
of power.
Yeah, that's all it is. Like being super confident in the Empire's might and in his own abilities, and just barreling straight into things with no consideration for anything else. Like the book does a really good job of explaining that personality trait a little bit more, which is really great, and something that I don't think was really gone into a whole lot in the Vader comics. So this is kind of for me anyway, this is kind of a new discovering of another side of his personality, which was pretty fun.
Well, it's like, I think I mentioned it before in another episode, but just like that attitude, but also it's still an internal conflict of like him deciding to have that attitude.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like he thinks he's big shit. He's like, oh, I have to make sure that everyone thinks I am. Like it's not
Which
like
is interesting.
he still doesn't have self-confidence. He's not like, from our childhood, Vader was this badass monster man who like he was basically a robot, right? Like he was just like ultimate power and strength and surety that he will achieve his goal of destruction.
Right.
But inside all of that is still this whiny bitch that's just like, I got to make sure everyone thinks I'm a strong man. Mm-hmm. Like he's still struggling with that attitude of like making sure that everyone's aware that he's definitely powerful and you need to know it. But it's just still an internal struggle of doing that. Right. And not at all a badass. He's still Anakin. Right. Which is nice to see that through all of that, he's still definitely Anakin.
He's slowly suppressing the remaining parts of Anakin, or he's trying to.
Right, he still struggles. And that's what's cool to see too. Is it's still an active fight suppressing Anakin and his, I don't know, his Jedi side, the Jedi as he refers to himself.
Right, that was Interesting too.
Like he
that
still thinks about it and still like has to actively suppress his thoughts about the Jedi and his memories from the Jedi.
the way he compartmentalizes that side of him, that personality.
Yeah, it's not
You know.
him; it's the Jedi.
Right.
Capital T,
That was
capital
interesting.
J. And yeah, it's so seeing that even through this is Vader is still like Anakin was always there. The good was always still with him and inside of him, and Luke, obviously brought him back because it
Right.
never really left him because he was always struggling with who he was still.
Right.
Even in even in the midst of when he was probably his most badass.
Yeah.
It's just having that's I think we've said this before, but the amount of obviously the EU is fantastic. As much as I read of the EU, I think we've gotten so much more of Vader in the new canon of novels.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Than we ever had, and it's made Vader an even more amazing character than he ever was.
Right.
Because it's humanized him and given him this extra personality, I think, in the new canon that I don't think was ever delved in the EU. Vader was Vader and he was a badass.
Right.
And he was that monster robot man that just could do whatever and was strong and powerful.
Right.
But it's really with all these various writers and authors that have written all these amazing books and stories, I think they've just given Vader so much more personality and depth that he never had before.
Right, and they're drawing from stuff that we've seen. They're drawing from the Vader from the movies. They're drawing from Clone Wars, Anakin from Clone Wars. They're drawing from Anakin from the prequels. All of this stuff and combining this into this one personality, and in a way that, like you said, that I don't think we've seen before. In other ways, it's really cool, and it's like with this Hoth thing, it's making me think about stuff from the original trilogy.
Right.
In Vader's behavior and like connecting the dots, which I think is exactly what these authors and everyone are going for.
Yeah. It's not just him being a badass. It's him just like turning off his mind. It's him turning off his suppression. Or him like ratcheting up the suppression of just like switching off and becoming evil. Right. Yeah. So when he does something badass,
going headlong into the anger and the fury.
just diving in, and it's not like it's almost it's like an active choice. It's not just him being him. It's like an active choice to like just like switch on the I don't know, the badassness. Yeah. But at the same time, something you had mentioned to me, off the show was about like some of the, again, like getting into the technicality of things. The way Timothy Zahn writes is just his descriptions of space battles is probably the best in Star Wars that we have. The description of fights and battles and the technicality of just the mechanics of things of ships fighting and the decisions behind that, I think is amazing. Yeah. So I think there's like you mentioned, you were asking for this and you said Zahn's probably the closest to that. Just the technicality of his battles, the any space battles he describes, I think are beautiful. And it gives you like a very clear picture of what's happening.
Yeah. The only thing I think that came close to that was from the EU, the X-Wing trilogy novels. Those had a level of technicality to them also. But I think that was more because it was all pilot based stuff. Yeah. It was all flying kind of stuff. Those novels were really good. But that's
with Zahn you get a lot of the tactics too.
Exactly. Right. That's the kind of stuff I really enjoy. And then something else I had mentioned to you was the way Zahn explained the way Jedi fight, the way like their mind operates.
It's not just moving
while fighting.
It's not just being fast. It's having the future vision.
Yeah, they call it double vision in the book, or Zahn calls it double vision, where it's like they could see Anakin is fighting off this group of smugglers or whatever at one point early on. And Zahn describes it as he sees a moment into the future and sees if he was to do nothing,
where the
blast would hit him and how they would affect him and where they came from and all that stuff. So he uses that information now, and that's how he deflects.
It's like future sight. Like it's this split, like I don't know, split second future sight of like, this is where the blaster's going to hit, so I block there. And here. It's like bullet time almost.
Yeah, exactly. And then it also describes, apparently this is something that all Jedi share, because then he talks about Obi-Wan having a technique added to that, which is how Jedi deflect bolts in a specific direction. So like
being able to aim them back
Right.
and hit them towards.
or no, actually, well, I guess the thing I'm thinking of was Obi-Wan's. He had a tactic that allowed opponents to, think again, like think twice about what you're going to do before I actually start harming you.
Okay.
So like deflect the bolts, as like warning shots back at them, basically at your opponents before you actually start deflecting them and harming them.
Aim a shot across the bow.
Yeah.
To talk in your terms now that you're 60 and looking at.
I understand that.
Give him warning a shot. Like I can do this. Don't like.
Yeah.
If you want to keep going, I can make the next one come exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that technicality too of that. Just
I will make you
these little
come
descriptors.
exactly where I want you to be.
I want you to come exactly. I mean, yeah, just his description of stuff and it's so. I don't know.
It's so detailed, and great
and elegant.
Yeah, I love it.
Everything's just so deep.
I'm loving this book in the same way I love the first one, and in a way that I did not love Last Shot. So
I want to, now that I've read his newer stuff, I want to go back and read the original Thrawn trilogy again.
How long has it been since you read it?
Probably it's probably before I was married, so it's probably coming up on 10 years.
Oh wow!
Since I've read it.
I think I read
one of my favorite series. It's so good.
I think I read it again before the first Thrawn came out.
I want to read it too because I want to see, because obviously he probably had to retool Thrawn a little bit. Obviously he built him from the ground. He's going back to when Thrawn started everything. Yeah. I want to see how similar now Thrawn is to what he started as in the original.
I think
books.
I remember talking about this a long time ago. It feels like the same character.
It definitely does, and that's what I want to see because it does feel like the exact same guy. Like that was just another, which is the point of the Legends. Like it's just another adventure he had that we never saw.
I do feel like, I guess it's more fleshed out in this sequel in Thrawn Alliances than it was in the first one, but I feel like the edges have kind of been
the mystery.
Not so much that, like the edges, the edginess of Thrawn's personality, I feel like has been sanded off just a little bit. Like his respect for leadership, I think, is more apparent in this version of the character.
He seems less pompous now.
Right.
And I wonder if that's just because of who he was and not having a character like that before, or if just because of how detailed we've gotten into Thrawn, we're like, oh, it makes sense why he acts that way now.
Maybe.
Because we got his, from the start to finish. Like we have from his very start with the Empire to where he is now.
Yeah, maybe.
Of like, I think we have a lot more internalized, like a lot more of the internal workings of Thrawn than we did before.
That may be it. It could also be that he doesn't have, like, he slots into a specific authority structure in this version of the character, right. Whereas before he was Grand Admiral Thrawn, he was like the top of the chain.
But I don't, and again, it's been a long time since I read them. I don't think we had any internal monologue in the original books of Thrawn, right? Not that I recall.
I think
it was all
we did
external monologuing or talking. I don't remember if we had any internal.
No, I think we did in the way where it goes into him noticing
maybe
little tics and stuff from other people and body language and that kind of stuff. I think we had that in the original books.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to go back and see is like, because I feel like we know Thrawn more personally now.
Yeah.
Than we did with the original books.
Definitely.
Because of starting from his like beginnings of how he got to where he is.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then him, especially with the very personal story between him and Anakin and him and Vader, where it's like you're getting both sides of their very internal, personal relationship and thoughts about each other.
Right.
It's just it's made both those characters so good.
Something that I do want to find out is how they resolve the, like, Thrawn doesn't know, or he suspects but doesn't 100% know that Vader is Anakin.
Sure.
At least in the very beginning.
Right.
I mean, I haven't finished the book yet, so I don't know. That's what I want to. I'm looking forward.
just like I mean, at the beginning, it's kind of like Tarkin, where it's like I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
right? Because Tarkin's pretty sure it's Anakin
Yeah.
from the Tarkin book,
Right.
where Thrawn's basically like that. Where like I think that's him,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you get some of that at the very end, like the last chapter.
Okay.
Of him, there's a conversation with Thrawn and Vader in the very last chapter, kind of wrapping up what happened with the mission and stuff they've done.
Okay.
And there's, it kind of resolves, or at least there is certainty at the end with Thrawn.
Okay.
And Vader.
I mean, because
they're both aware at the end, like, oh shit.
Well, obviously Vader knows Thrawn.
No, but he doesn't know if Thrawn knows that it's him.
Okay, yeah,
right.
That's what I'm talking about. Because they both went to Batu together as Anakin and Thrawn in the very beginning, and met some of the same people that they then go back and see the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So the way Thrawn talks about,
well, Thrawn, I don't know if you've gotten to the point where Thrawn keeps throwing out stuff about like him being there before. And then Vader's like, well, I wouldn't know what you're talking about. Like
that's right. That's the kind of stuff
you've had some of that already.
That's the kind of stuff I'm wondering.
Thrawn keeps throwing stuff out like that. About
is Thrawn doing that on purpose?
I think so.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because Thrawn is, I mean, Thrawn is never unsure about anything, right? Like Thrawn knows what Thrawn knows, and
that's what you'd think. Yeah.
Yeah. So Thrawn's pretty sure. Obviously, he hasn't had any verbal or physical confirmation, but he's like,
he has no proof.
He's pretty. He has no. There's he knows beyond probable. Like there's nothing saying it's not him, right? So at this point, Thrawn's basically accepted that it's him. So he'll keep throwing stuff out there about the previous mission, and the last time I was here, and this last thing, and Vader's always like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. He always throws out the dumb like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What? Huh? Oh look, something else. But yeah, the very last conversation with them in the last chapter, there's another conversation like that of Thrawn saying something about his previous something with Anakin, where it's basically like the last few sentences are like, he knows.
Interesting.
So yeah, it'll be interesting because Zahn's already said he has another book idea to go continue from this point.
He just hasn't been asked to write it yet.
That we know of. That was back in the summer.
Okay.
Which, I mean, if Zahn asks to write about Thrawn ever, just say yes. Just give him carte blanche to just write whatever he wants about Thrawn. It doesn't matter. Even Vader, he's made Vader a way better character than anything else has. Like,
yeah,
give him full control of Vader. I don't care.
I would love to see a live action Thrawn with the same type of writing and character development that's in the books. It
would be interesting. Yeah,
I would really like to see that.
But we'll never get non-saga movies anymore ever again. Not for a while.
Thanks to all you dummies that didn't like Rogue One.
Yeah.
1 out of 2 people liked Rogue One.
Bunch of dumps. Me. That's me. I did that.
The dump.
I'm a dump. Hi.
It's me, a dump.
All right, we went a long time talking about submarines and the books.
We did not talk about submarines that long.
That was
brought it up.
More than a minute. It's too long. What are we at? What are we at? How far are we into this?
We're into enough to stop now and be fine.
Jesus. We've got 15 minutes to talk about all the stuff we actually had notes about.
All the stuff that matters.
So, speaking about written
Let's
words,
call this the stuff you spend your money on segment.
So talking about words that are written down on Dead Tree papers, the Chuck Wendig Shadow of Vader series has been officially pulled from the release schedule, so effectively canceled. Because we know he was kicked off as a writer, but we didn't know what was going to happen from there.
No.
So I think it sucks.
I don't know.
The whole situation's
I don't know why I'm
horrible.
making those noises.
So yeah, it's like comic. It was confirmed by comic outlets that basically said their schedule of releases from Marvel, it was just suddenly not there anymore. So
hopefully he comes back for more Star Wars something.
Well, I mean, that was Marvel, so Marvel fired him, but
yeah, right.
Obviously he did say that his editor from
Del Rey.
Del Rey said, "Yeah, we're still fine." So
That's right.
I really
Okay.
hope that they would give him more books,
Yeah.
especially after this.
Yeah.
But the whole Marvel situation needs to be fixed in and of itself.
Yeah.
Since the last episode, there's been a lot of stuff. There was D23, the Disney conference that happens, and there was a lot of stuff on Galaxy's Edge. And so the two rides that we've been talking about are the Millennium Falcon ride, which is now called Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And then the other ride we had talked about is called Rise of the Resistance.
The super fantastic First Order battle action thriller.
Yes, which is supposed to have like 50 animatronic stormtroopers like at the entrance of the as part of the ride or whatever.
All I can think of is Small World. Stormtroopers doing
dancing?
Yes.
In Russian outfits. But I did see because there was trailers for both these rides, so go look those up. But in the Resistance trailer for the ride, I did notice that troop transport, like that ride, the ride vehicle that they had shown at a previous D23.
Yeah,
it was in that trailer. That ground, like that little troop transport that had like 6 seats in it.
Yeah,
it was in the trailer. So
okay,
that's obviously where that's going to be used. At D23 as well, they did,
and
release...
that's the ride that's going to be based in the giant hangar that we've heard about before, right?
Yeah, on the
Star Destroyer.
It's supposed to be a Star Destroyer. Yeah,
yeah, that should be interesting.
It's supposed to be boarding a Star Destroyer, so I'm assuming it's some kind of
like the Resistance.
The Resistance is boarding a Star Destroyer.
That could be
cool.
What
it looks like.
Yeah.
We had noted previously that John Williams would be doing the score for the Galaxy's Edge Park. That big clip of that was released, and it is the best.
It's
music.
really good.
So good.
I mean, it's almost better than some of the movie score that we've heard for the last couple movies. I mean, it's really good.
It may be better than the Last Jedi soundtrack.
That's what I was thinking too. It reminds me of hearing the Indiana Jones theme for the first time.
Kind of
really rousing, big, feel good kind of music. You know?
Yeah, it's really
good.
I'm gonna walk into Galaxy's
for a
Edge
theme
and just
park,
start crying.
For heaven's sake.
I'm just gonna break down into tears in the middle of Galaxy's Edge.
You know we're gonna do that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna step in and I'm going to cry. It's going to happen.
Watching that trailer that had his music over it and seeing the Falcon,
just goosebumps.
Was so emotional.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. This is a freaking theme park.
This is a fake thing at a Disney park that I'm going to cry at.
Yeah.
Speaking
of things we're gonna cry about, the next thing, the Star Wars Hotel.
Oh, jeez, yeah. So, from stuff they released, obviously the permits and plans for the building were released since last episode, which I don't think we talked about.
Yeah.
Where it's obviously shaped like a space cruiser.
Starship, yeah.
But according to the permits, the rooms come in 2 sizes, a regular size cabin and then a larger first class cabin. The first floor has 32 regular cabins and two first class cabins. If the second floor has the same layout, then the hotel will only have 68 rooms.
It's definitely...
Which means the waiting list will be just this godforsaken amount of time to get in because...
Which is really depressing.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
But the whole, the layout and the room structure and everything, it really is like a cruise.
Right. Yeah, and it looks like a cruise ship. I mean,
the packages are going to be selling, which is, I think it's a 2-day thing, right? Or a 2-night thing.
I think the shortest amount is 2 nights. You have to stay at least 2.
Can you buy more than that? I thought it was
maybe. I don't know. Unless it says a package deal of you go for 2 nights and then you're done.
That's what I got the impression it was like that, where it was a fixed amount of time where you could tell a story over that amount of time, and then the story ends and you're done. See ya. Bye.
That could be. We talked previously about how are people going to get from the hotel to the park?
Yeah.
And we know where the park's going to be in relation to the hotel, and there's obviously some kind of path that's from there.
Yeah.
But it looks like that guests will actually be transported via some type of shuttle bus that will keep them in the story, bringing them to the planet of Batuu. So basically a transport, leaving from the ship, going to Batuu.
What's also interesting is you can't... this isn't going to be like the normal Disney thing where you'll have your resort-wide bus system that can go to different places.
Just a transport from the hotel to Galaxy's Edge.
And you can't get to this hotel from any of the other hotels or parks or anything.
Really?
Yeah, that's according to what I was reading somewhere else. Like it's
Okay.
not like you could take a bus from Disney Springs, say, to over to this hotel.
And just like people walking, yeah, I guess because of the experience, you can't just walk around it like you can go to,
Right.
the Grand Floridian and walk around.
Right. It's not just a hotel. This is like a whole themed experience.
Right. And that's what they had some concept art of like the entrance of like people unloading their cars and stuff. And there's
Yeah.
going to be a whole security. So that's the other thing is like, what's interesting is that the hotel will handle security for the park when guests arrive and check in. So that way you are enclosed in the immersive experience for a set amount of time, only traveling between Hollywood Studios and the luxury starship.
Exactly.
So that they will not take you out of it by passing through metal detectors or bag checks or any type of security after you've already checked into the hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty cool.
It's really interesting.
So it's like you go in and you're just like LARP done.
Yeah.
Like, go to the park, go back
Right.
in.
You basically arrive at a park you can sleep at, is what it ends up being.
Basically, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
you
you
go
said,
to
it's
a
like a
theme-
cruise,
Right. Right.
which is
It's gonna be so it's gonna be
it's gonna
great
be so expensive.
and expensive, but also great.
Well, yeah. So Disney. So the estimates are that Disney will spend $24 billion on new attractions, hotels, and ships over the next 5 years.
What's ships mean?
Cruises.
Oh, cruise
So
ships.
they're building even bigger ships than their
Good
bigger ones
Lord.
they have right now. That is
Wow.
more than they paid for Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm combined. So in the next 5 years, they will spend possibly around $24 billion on attractions, hotels, and ships.
What did they spend for Fox? Do you remember? It was in the billions of dollars.
Was it
I know
around
that.
6?
I can't remember now.
I'd have to look it up.
But I mean, just think of all of the licenses they have now, the properties, that they have access to, all the Marvel stuff,
right.
all this Lucasfilm stuff now, Indiana Jones and Star Wars, all the Fox license stuff that they have now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be,
Oh yeah. The money is
they're going to be
insane.
throwing money down for this kind of stuff for a long time.
Oh no, it was way more than I thought.
It's in the tens of billions,
so
isn't
the
it?
initial offer, I think, was $52 billion.
Oh.
Is that what it was?
Did it get up to 60 something? I can't remember now.
Disney was raising approximately $34 billion to help finance the transaction.
Jeez.
I can't find the total. I can't find that end number. Wait a second. The shareholders approved the estimated $71 billion merger.
Oh my God.
Jesus. Yeah. But the of the things, so like their TV stations like ESPN and ABC, I think they had a drop in revenue this year. But I think the parks increased the revenue almost 100%.
Wow. That makes sense. They've been throwing money and resources
They
into
have I was reading the amount of land that they have for all of their theme parks and like locations is double the size of Manhattan.
worldwide or in
I
Florida.
think worldwide. So they have their theme park land covers double the size of Manhattan.
That seems
That's what they were saying.
smaller than.
I mean, if you think
Huh.
about the theme parks, they're not that big.
Well, think about all the land that they own here.
Well, they own a shit ton of land, yeah.
You're talking just the theme park land.
I believe that's what they were talking about. It's
Huh.
like the actual properties
Interesting.
from hotels and resorts and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think it included like the one in the Aulani in Hawaii.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
It's a
They've-
giant mess of
They're throwing
everything.
money and resources into the resort stuff in a way that they haven't in
a long
in
time.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously we've been in Orlando for a long time, both of us, and the parks were pretty. I don't know. I wouldn't say stagnant sounds bad, but they were stagnant. They were what they were, and they were that way for maybe 10 years.
Through the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
They were, some rides switched out here and there, but nothing, no big additions really.
Yeah.
But now they've added the Toy Story land to Hollywood Studios,
There
and
was
the
the
Star
whole-
Wars land. They're adding the Marvel stuff to Epcot. They're
Mhm. There was the whole Fantasyland expansion to
right,
to Magic Kingdom not too long ago.
yeah. So they're doing
Um,
the same thing for
There's a bunch
Galaxy's
of stuff
Edge
being
in
added to
Hawaii,
Epcot. Yeah, right.
or not Hawaii, in California.
Yeah. There's
It's
the
just a mess.
Tron ride being added to Magic Kingdom.
Right.
There's a ton of stuff going in. Animal Kingdom was the last or
Which
the,
is
the
it's interesting to see them
what was
doing
it?
that
The
now.
Avatar land added
Oh
to.
yeah,
to
it's
Animal
weird to see
Kingdom.
them doing that now. When I don't know, there's not a specific reason other than maybe I don't know, maybe park revenue was down. I don't know.
What I mean,
I mean, like Bob Iger's been around through that whole period.
they're trying to. You mean no specific reason for expanding? Like
I
putting all
guess,
these
yeah.
resources?
It just seems very sudden, and it all is very sudden. This has all happened in the last like 2 years.
Well, think of it. They've got this ecosystem you enter when you go to these resorts, like here in Florida. Like, why not capitalize on that? Why not?
Well, I'm sure, but why
add
now?
a bunch
Why
of
after a
value?
decade of not? And it was, I mean, people still flock to it, like I do, and I live here. But I don't know. It's in the last like three years.
It's all about
it's been just
experiences now, I
exploding
guess.
into this,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
and there's also all the new hotels and stuff they've added over the last 10 years.
Yeah, lots of
It's a lot of stuff.
them.
A lot of stuff going in there.
Yep. And
What else we got?
that's enough.
We'll
I'm
talk
fine.
about the rest some other time. You're
Yeah.
fine.
Pedro Pascal, who's rumored to be the lead.
I
in
actually really
Mandalorian.
liked that casting.
Yeah, he was
for
been
this.
rumored for a long time to be the lead in Mandalorian, and it
Really?
seems to be confirmed.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think it was sources confirmed to Variety that Pedro Pascal would be the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
So,
I really like that guy. I think he's going to
Yeah.
be great
oh yeah, I agree.
in this environment.
I
you
mean,
know?
it's been rumored long enough that everyone kind of took it as truth, but now it seems to be yes, definitely. So
Nice.
there you go.
He's going to be in the new Wonder Woman too.
Oh really?
The 1984
Yeah, I
Wonder
didn't
Woman.
realize that.
I don't know what he's playing, but yeah, he's great. He's in Narcos.
Okay,
also.
yeah, that's right. And he's in
I
Game
don't
of
know if-
Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is the big one, which I've never watched, so I don't know who he is or who cares.
If he wasn't in the first 2 seasons, then I don't know. If he was, I don't remember. That's
Great.
that's how that works.
He was in one episode of Buffy
That's doesn't help me at all.
as Eddie
Oh, Eddie.
Do you remember Eddie?
Got it. Perfect. Great. I remember the one episode
from
of
the one
Eddie.
episode of Buffy.
Yeah, definitely remember Eddie. All
Eddie.
right, that's more than enough of this.
That is plenty of us, and we can be done now.
Yep. As always, if you enjoy the show, please go on to iTunes or other places that allow ratings of some sort and leave one. The end. You can find us everywhere. If you want to shoot us a message, we're on Twitter at @_. No, I can't even talk
At
anymore.
twitter.com.
At Twitter._
@_Hokey_religion.
underscore Twitter dot underscore. No.
Twitter.
I've lost it.
We're at Twitter._.
This couch. It's the couch. It's taking hold. No, we're at
The
Twitter.
cupboard.
We're on Twitter at Hokey_religion. Ah, it took too hard to get out. We're also on Facebook.
It took too hard.
Yep. I can't do words good anymore.
The cupboard. The cupboard is taking
Being
over.
sucked back into the cushions of the couch, disappearing. If you want to shoot us an email, you can reach us at asklobot@hokeyreligion.com.
At Twitter._.
At Twitter._. Twitter @ Twitter. And if you really, really like the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/hokeyreligion
Ooh.
and submit the financial income to us via various amounts to thank us for our service.
Please thank us for our service.
You can send pictures of submarines to Michael at that Henderson on Twitter.
Please send me so many pictures.
Yeah, any types of submarines, sandwiches, the boats, all of it.
The Beatles album.
Yep, yellow ones. It's
They could be any color.
Yeah,
That's
please.
the great thing about this. From gray to yellow and everything in between. Gray, yellow.
You know, the spectrum from gray to yellow.
That's all I could see.
That's
Reading this book has changed my color profile.
You're gray yellow colorblind. Is that what you are?
Everything from gray to yellow I can see. Just fine. You know how many gray and yellow things exist in this world?
At least 5.
Hey, this couch is one of them. It's a nice gray yellow color.
Oh, short.
Okay.
Well, that is that's
enough of us.
That's plenty of this
for one time.
This has been Hokie Religion. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hokie religion is an ancient weapon. Hokie religion is an ancient weapon, so no match for a good blaster at your side.